Hello, and welcome to my January Lunar Mansion Magic Guide, where we'll discuss opportunities to work Lunar Mansion magic over the next month. In this video, I'll present 11 reasonably auspicious times for working Lunar Mansion magic and a couple of very auspicious ones this month, plus full example rituals on 4 of the best times, including one election for a very useful Altharaya talisman for the acquisition of good things. But before we get started, please do me a favor and click like on this video before you forget to help me fare better with YouTube's algorithms. And if you like this content, also consider clicking subscribe to get notified whenever I share new content. If you're new to these videos, or lunar mansions in general, don't worry. I've put together a guide on the lunar mansion system to help you get up to speed quickly. But in general, what are lunar mansions? It takes 28 days for the moon to rotate around the Earth. Divide 360 degrees of sky into 28 equal parts of 12.57 something, and you get the tropical lunar mansions, one for each lunar day. Each mansion is associated with a different spirit and offers unique magical properties, from attracting prosperity to achieving victory, offering protection, and so on. Why work with lunar mansions? Well, lunar mansions are comprehensive. There's a mansion for everything. Lunar mansions are accessible. There are a variety of opportunities every lunar cycle for most petitions. Lunar magic is goddess magic. Lunar mansion rituals are theurgic rituals to Luna in her various forms. So lunar mansions are the divisions of a lunar zodiac, like the signs of the traditional zodiac, except that the moon rests in each mansion only one day in each cycle. If certain conditions can be met on that day, such as having the moon on the ascendant or the midheaven, and ideally in a supporting aspect to another celestial, magical rituals related to the nature of the mansion can be performed effectively during that time. Just how auspicious of a time you need for your spell will depend on the nature of your desired outcome. If you're going to create a lasting piece of talismanic jewelry or something similar, you should wait for an excellent election. But if you just need a one-time result, creating a lasting talisman is overkill, and you probably can't afford to wait anyway. If you're not making a lasting talisman, you can find plenty of reasonably auspicious times for working a spell. These windows of time aren't ideal for everything, but they'll work well enough for the spells I'm recommending. Usually the way this works is that the moon rests in a useful mansion, but without having any supporting aspects. This isn't bad, it's just not anything really special. For long-term talismans, you want to bottle the energy of a very special moment, but very special isn't required for simpler short-term spells. Any of the times I include in this video meet Christopher Warnock's advanced method for finding lunar mansion elections, detailed in his book, Mansions of the Moon. I won't refer to most of these times as magical elections, because that might give you the impression that these are all great. Instead, I'll make a bigger deal out of the really good ones to make sure you understand the difference, so that when I refer to a time as an election, you know it's hot shit. Before we get into the times and recommended rituals for January, let's take a look at some of my lunar mansion workings from last month to connect the dots and provide inspiration for your own work. Last month, I recommended turning a lodestone into an Altharaya, third lunar mansion talisman, by painting the image of a seated woman with her right hand over her head on the lodestone after invoking Luna and the mansion spirit with the moon on the midheaven trine Mercury. Here's the finished result. Altharaya appears again in January under an even better astrological configuration. But this time, I recommend actually creating your own engraved gemstone talisman during the election, which is definitely hot shit. Keep watching for that info in a few minutes. The most impressive astrological configuration I discussed in December's video was the moon conjunct Mars in its domicile of Scorpio in the 18th lunar mansion of Al-Khalib, for which I recommended creating a protective talisman in the form of a spirit bottle, or in my case, a jar. Here's the finished talisman sitting on a printed paper talisman. If you look closely, you can see a small metal charm in the jar that has been engraved with the mansion image. We're currently living in an Airbnb, so it didn't make sense to bury the talisman. So instead, we keep it on our main general purpose altar. Okay, on to the times for working lunar mansion rituals. First up, the times for the Eastern time zone. I will pause briefly on each slide to give you a chance to hit stop and copy down any information you need while I call attention to some of the more interesting aspects of the configurations I found. January 1st has a pretty powerful configuration and is one of the times I provided an example for in this month's video. It seems quite portentous that the moon spends the first day of 2022 in the fairly malefic mansion known for painful endings and new beginnings, but I offer some suggestions on how to make the best of that ritually. January 6th is an interesting opportunity because it is another essentially malefic mansion, but given the waxing conditions of the moon, I think it's worth a second look. The 27th mansion originally featured the star Gamma Pegasi, known as Alganib, of the Pegasus constellation. This means the mansion derives its character from the myth of Pegasus and Bellerophon, who ended tragically, but only after a series of impressive victories. I suggest that may be a thread worth pulling on. The 28th lunar mansion, Al-Batan al-Hut, the belly of the fish, is an extremely positive mansion in the sign of Pisces. With Jupiter now co-present in Pisces, we can count on having more support here than in recent months. January 8th has two opportunities for beginning new journeys or projects, etc. Monday, January 10th is this month's best election for Althariah, which, due to the sextile with Jupiter in Pisces, is suitable for making a long-term talisman, which is my recommendation, as you'll see in a few minutes. On the 12th, there is a very good election to gain favor from authority, which is perfect for supporting any kind of application, like a loan application or a job application or anything similar. The moon is conjunct the North Node in Taurus, which the Picatrix says is very powerful. And on the 15th, another very good election for victory, arguably good enough for a talisman as well, with the trine to Jupiter in Pisces. Honestly, it's a toss-up if the third lunar mansion is really a better election. Both are great. Okay, now for the EU. The time zone I selected was CEST, using Munich, Germany as the city where I cast the charts. CEST has the same opportunity to release and renew on the first day of the year, with the moon on the MC conjunct Mars within a 9-degree bubble. January 6th, Jupiter co-present in Pisces with the moon affords an interesting opportunity for a ritual for victory over competition. January 7th is our monthly opportunity to gather fish, which is grimoire speak for big prosperity magic. Begin journeys and new projects on the 7th with the moon on the ascendant co-present with Jupiter and sextile Venus. And there are two excellent opportunities on the 10th to create talismans for Althariah, the 21st mansion, which is for the acquisition of good things. The 15th has a very good election for victory, with the moon in Cancer on the ascendant and trine Jupiter in Pisces. Good stuff. The 23rd offers an opportunity to squash the competition with some light malefica. The moon in Libra on the AC trine Saturn in Aquarius in the 16th mansion Al-Hubana during her waning phase is the perfect time for impeding business, in case you know someone deserving. And on the 28th, the moon rests in the 20th mansion Al-Nam, which during the waning phase is sextile Saturn, making it well suited for keeping something hidden if you have a secret that needs to stay secret.
The endings and transformation ritual I recommend this month is on the 2nd for our friends down under. The moon is on the ascendant, conjunct Mars in Sagittarius, and sextile Jupiter in Pisces. On the 4th, you get the only window of opportunity for the 24th mansion, Sa'ad al-Sa'ud, the luckiest of the lucky, which is for increase in prosperity and is one of the most benefic mansions. The moon on the ascendant, conjunct Venus in Capricorn, and trine the North Node is a reasonably good configuration for the purpose. The only drawback is that Venus is applying to Saturn in a conjunction in Capricorn, which isn't that great. Good enough in a pinch, though. The 8th offers a chance at gathering fish with the 28th lunar mansion, Batan al-Hut, the belly of the fish. The co-presence of Jupiter in Pisces with the moon in this mansion, and a sextile with the North Node provides benefic support. Start journeys and projects on the 9th with the moon in the first lunar mansion, sextile Saturn in Aquarius. And there are two decent opportunities for good fortune from authority on the 10th, though the latter time has a beneficial sextile with Jupiter that may be worth waiting for. The remainder of the month just didn't pan out as well in AEST. Australians have the opportunity for a victory working on the 16th, but it's not as good as in the other time zones. Of the remaining times, the most interesting is the morning of the 28th, with the moon in Sagittarius on the midheaven and Jupiter conjunct the ascendant in Pisces, which is good for keeping things hidden, protecting secrets, and so on.
Those are all the times I found for performing Lunar Mansion rituals in January. Now I will provide example rituals and describe exactly how I plan to work 4 of the best times this month. For most of the world, the first day of 2022, the moon rests in the 21st lunar mansion, Al-Balda, which is traditionally a fairly malefic mansion. We'll be in the waning phase, so nothing blunts the harshness of this mansion, which is known for painful endings, but also for new beginnings. Its image is a man having 2 faces, with one facing forward and the other facing behind. Given the struggles of 2021 and the very different world we're living in as a result of those struggles, it seems like a good opportunity to put the past behind us, releasing what we don't need anymore and welcoming what comes next. To that end, I suggest a ritual for endings and transformations, where you invoke Luna and the mansion spirit using the invocations and conjuration detailed in my Lunar Mansion guide, which can be found in the resources section of this presentation, linked in the description below. And for the ritual, create a paper talisman, either by drawing or having printed it previously, and writing on the back your petition and a list of all the things you want to end, to remove from your life, to make space for new things. Then light a candle and recite your petition again while setting fire to the paper talisman and letting it burn, turning the list of things that no longer serve you into ash. Some considerations for this ritual. This ritual is intentionally simple, so there's not much to prepare. Just print or draw a paper talisman and write the petition and the list of what you want to end or let go of on the back. I suggest you do this outside or by a window, as there will be a lot of smelly smoke. You may also want to have a bowl to catch the ashes in. Finally, this is not a gentle mansion, but the positive aspect to Jupiter should soften the experience a little. Still, the message of this mansion is that when one door closes, another opens, and our goal is to let go willingly. Here is the chart for EST, for CEST, and for AEST. This month's opportunity to work Altharaya, the 3rd lunar mansion, is exceptionally good. Enough so that I'm recommending that you create a talisman by engraving the image of the mansion on a suitable lunar gemstone. Sadly, this election is only available in the American and European time zones. The Aussies got screwed out of this one. Sorry, guys. But for the rest of you, the ritual opens with the usual invocations and conjuration. You can, again, get that text from my quick start guide linked in the resources section of this presentation. And after the conjuration of the Lunar Mansion spirit and your petition, you will need to engrave the image of the mansion, which is a seated woman with her right hand over her head, on the gem you choose. So make sure that gem has a flat area big enough to contain your engraving. Once you've engraved the image on the stone, you suffumigate it with incense smoke while repeating the conjuration of the Lunar Mansion spirit and your petition. Some considerations for this ritual. This is actually a very decent election, worthy of making a long-term talisman rather than just casting a simple spell. And that's because the moon sextile Jupiter in Pisces in the 11th house is the benefic boost that makes this a particularly auspicious time. Suitable lunar gemstones would include moonstone, or white and translucent stones in general, such as selenite, pearl, and so on. For engraving, we use the engraver you see in the picture here to create our talismans. It's only 25 or 30 bucks at Home Depot, and we were able to find it in Mexico, so it should be widely available in the US and elsewhere Home Depot stores exist. Here is the chart for EST, the morning chart for CEST, and the afternoon chart for CEST. Everyone needs a little help from the powers that be once in a while. Moving to Mexico this year taught my wife and I the importance of being on good terms with the authorities and how much power a single bureaucrat can have over your life. Give the wrong official a bad impression and you might not get a visa, for example. But the same goes for job interviews, loan applications, and so on. Many of life's twists and turns put authority figures of various types in our path. Al-Haka, the 5th lunar mansion, whose image is a head without a body, is broadly benefic, but particularly good for improving one's chances at receiving favor from an authority. And typically, when you're forced to be in a situation which involves the approval of some authority figure or figures, there is some kind of paperwork involved. A loan application, visa application, job application, or even just a resume. Make a copy of whatever paperwork you have related to your desired outcome and use it in the ritual, which is as follows. Invoke and conjure, as with the other rituals I mentioned before, and create a paper talisman with your petition written across its face. Place the documentation on top of the paper talisman and fold them together until they'll fit in a small bag you've procured for this ritual. Then add pinches of 3, 5, or 7 saturnine herbs or stones to the bag. Draw it closed and keep it on your altar until your petition's been fulfilled or you've deemed the work a failure or it's irrelevant otherwise. Most times when someone needs favor from authority, there's this document that you can use as the medium of the spell, so first find that. While configurations with the nodes are not generally helpful, the Picatrix specifically mentions that a conjunction or a positive aspect with the north node is particularly powerful. This is, however, only in effect for the EST time zone. The overall concept of this working is the same as a mojo bag or a spirit bottle. Enclosures indicate a sacred space, which can be dedicated to a particular working. The entire working then becomes a talisman. This is the EST chart, the CEST chart, and the AEST chart. My last ritual example for this month is another very good election in the Americas and in Europe anyway. It's not bad in Australia, but the trine with Jupiter is separating, so its effect would not be considered active in talismans made at this time in that location. A short-term talisman would still be fine, such as one for a very specific purpose, and doing spells at this time still makes sense, of course. For the other parts of the world, however, the trine with Jupiter in Pisces makes this special. The election is good for victory, especially in competitions, and the ritual would go something like this. Invoke and conjure, as usual, then engrave the image, an eagle with the head of a man on a metal disc, silver, silver-plated, etc., and then suffumigate it while reciting the conjuration and petition again. Lastly, hang it on a chain or rope and wear it around the neck, or at least keep it on your person during the activity you wish to be victorious at. The astrological configuration does the heavy lifting here. The ritual is a very traditional image magic approach where the mansion's image is carved onto a piece of metal that is sympathetic to the moon, ideally silver. The engraved charm is then suffumigated while the petition is repeated to dedicate it to your purpose. Then it is worn like a medal as a metaphor for victory. And engravable charms like this are very easy to find on Amazon and in craft stores. I've provided a link here in the presentation as well. Here's the chart for EST, the chart for CEST, and the chart for AEST. That wraps up the monthly Mansion Magic Guide for January 2022. There were a number of good mansion opportunities this month, and even a couple really excellent ones worth using to create talismans. I gave examples for 4 of the 11 mansions I could find suitable times in, which left a lot of other opportunities to be explored. There was some really good stuff in there like opportunities to create love or to gain victory over the competition, or more malefic outcomes like impeding business or causing separation. A little something for everyone. I hope that you find this guide useful and that it encourages you to attempt Lunar Mansion rituals on your own if you haven't. And if you have, I hope that I at least save you some time looking for good astrological configurations. This presentation is available for download and contains links to all the resources I mentioned, including my own guide to Lunar Mansion Magic, which talks about the concept of lunar mansions, the individual mansions themselves, and the components of the invocation and conjuration rituals. Plus, it includes an easy-to-print text version of the entire ritual for your convenience. In that guide, you will also find a link to my post about my experimental project, syncretizing Lunar Mansion rituals with my personal Hecate practice, and the full Hecatean Lunar Mansion invocation conjuration ritual that I use in my own workings. Here are the links to other sources on lunar mansions, the links to purchase the items I mentioned in my rituals, and my own guide to Lunar Mansion Magic. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that it provided some value. I'll be back again in a few weeks with another Mansion Magic guide for next month, February 2022 with more new times and rituals. If you like this video, please click the like and subscribe buttons, which will help me get this video in front of more people like you and help you stay informed when I post new content. And if you have any feedback or questions, please hit me up on Twitter at postmuggleism. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.